I lost connection. So I had to start another one.
Nope, that's not the right one. Al, would you come in here? Your stove is stupid. Alan, come here.
You found me, Maz. Yeah. All of a sudden, I got the black screen.
Hey, can you get up here and help me here? Come and help me. Or just get up then, if you can't.
That looks like a pretty nice recliner right there, doesn't it?
I think you take too many pills.
Present.
I can do it. What do you want it up?
Is it hot? Is the burner hot?
Put it on?
Yeah. Is that the right one for that? Is that the right one for that burner?
Yeah, instead of getting Alan a sound bar, they should be really looking into hearing aids for him. Michelle, I just got the bad internet connection or whatever, and so it shut it off, so I had to, well, it said trying to reconnect, so I just started
I live here at home, you know, but I know it would help her, I know that. I think it would help her tremendously.
Winning cases requires that
Stirring
the
it.
attorney presenting
Yes,
the
we are
case
on the last episode.
knows the case better than anyone who's in the courtroom, anyone that ever picks up, the documents and looks at the case. It's incumbent upon the attorney to know every single detail. And it's sort of a joke in my office. I let my clerks do a lot of analysis and work and give me memos and all that, and I trust no one. And so I always go back. I had never looked at the underlying reports of Eisenberg, and so I was going through her notes, and what caught my eye was the numbering of the tag numbers. I, of course, knew 8675 was the Corey pile with the pelvic bone in it. But then I saw on the sheet of paper a different numbering sequence in the 7400s. This was different evidence. These were different bones. And then I started reading the content of it, where in great detail, Leslie Eisenberg has documented that there are more human bones. And then I'm noticing not only that, but she's documenting that they have cut marks on them.
What's up with that?
There's no indication that these bones belong to more than one person.
We're watching Making a Murderer,
They're not
Part
duplicate
2.
bones.
episode 10.
We
So
don't
that's why you
have
hear
three
Zellner in the
different
background.
pelvises or scapulas or femurs. We don't. And so then I went back to my clerks and said, take these numbers, these tag numbers, and trace them. One of my clerks came back and said, well, there is further documentation of the coordinates. I told them to get the coordinates, to make a map for me. I wanted to understand where those bones were coming from. There are many, many more human bones over in the Manitowoc gravel pit. The two new piles are even further away. They're closer to Highway Q than they are to the Avery salvage yard. And then a little distance from them is the pile with the pelvic bone, but lo and behold, there's another bone in there too that she described as being human. So all three piles of bones are all in the Manitowoc gravel pit.
Again, is there any proof that any of those bones are even Teresa?
That discovery would have changed everything at trial. If the jury had heard that there were numerous human bones over in the Manitowoc gravel pit, not one possible pelvic bone, it would have changed everything.
Why are we watching me watch the show? Because if I show the screen of the show, then Netflix shuts me down for showing their
Again, this
content.
points away from what's
Miley,
the
no,
state's theory.
nobody
This
shut
is
me
the
down.
state's theory.
Again, that
not even
it's just
at all.
bad internet connection or whatever. So nobody shut me down. It's just
I mean, the state's theory was that
nobody
body
has shut
was
me down
burned,
at all at
not
any point
dismembered.
today.
It was
It's all
burned
just
in
been
the
some
scene
kind of
they
internet
burned it.
error.
So what does this list mean?
When you find shock trauma and then burn, that's highly suspicious you got some dismemberment going on or alteration of the evidence or the victim. And that's extremely important in a case like this. When people suddenly figure out that there's a dead body in front of them, they need to get rid of them. They're hard to move.
Mads, the only thing that I've ever heard on the bones is that it was consistent with the female line in Karen Hallbach's family.
And then there's a couple other features.
Nothing has been
black thing is just a
for
piece of
sure
scale
these
from
are
down below.
Okay,
Teresa's.
so this one I recognize. This is
Kristen,
from
I still find it
the
curious that it took 2
Gassy
searches of the burn barrel to find the bones. 2, how big is that barrel? Yeah, right?
Anytime you see a straight edge manipulation of bone, it's usually a cut mark. That looks like a very thin saw. So I'm thinking the narrowest possibilities. So I tested 3 or 4 hacksaw blades and meat saw.
And who would know how to
pretty much your narrowest saw, except for
saw a
some
woman
really
apart?
unusual jeweler's
Somebody
saws
who's
that they want.
regularly
So
One of the
taking apart a
interesting things about the dismemberment in this case, the people that are Denny suspects are deer hunters. And in deer hunting, when a deer is dressed, it's what you're saying. It's a nice way of saying you're dismembering, and the meat's removed, and then you're dismembering the skeleton. So hacksaw blades are used, sharp knives are used, and a person would have some awareness of anatomy, of cutting into a joint, and how to do that effectively. So it's different than the average person who might be repulsed by the idea of dismembering. It's still hard to imagine anyone could dismember the human body, but certainly they have some of the mechanical skill that would be necessary for dismembering that you wouldn't see in other cases. Dr. Eisenberg documents the equivalent, I think it adds up to 1.7 pounds of skeletal remains. And on a cremation, what's the weight of a body when you don't have missing bone?
it's around 10 pounds or so, depending on the person, the cremation technique, and everything else.
So we've got,
We're looking at 10 or 20%, and that's nowhere near
ooh,
the real
Lily,
story.
I'm gonna have to
I
go.
think the jury's getting the same
Not gonna
thing.
do it right now
I think
since
they're
we're doing
getting-
this, but this whole link you put on here
Obviously, a lot of the bodies
with
represented.
Barb
but a lot
vehicle
of the
set on
bones are
fire,
not
I'm
there.
very
When you
interested
burn the
to read
body,
that.
For example, the ribs.
Pass the
24
popcorn,
ribs,
please. I
and
just
they're
got done eating
fragile.
some chips.
They're hard to burn up. There should be rib fragments everywhere, and I just don't see that. So
Jeff,
I
I'm
think
sure there's
and
gonna be
vertebral-
another season.
see, the vertebral bodies are
Greg,
spongy.
wouldn't that be
They
creepy
survive
if
fire quite well.
Kratz was
Even
watching you in your
even if they're
window?
calcined.
Oh, yeah,
They
that guy there,
stand up pretty
or
well.
that guy
They're
there.
just missing
Yeah.
bones that
Well,
hold up in
my
the fire.
boyfriend's here
I
now,
don't see
so,
it. I
and
don't
my
see
boyfriend's
much.
actually outside. Friend of his stopped over here. I can hear his car still running, and my boyfriend is an NRA instructor with his concealed carry, so he's got a gun on his hip. So come on, Kratz, come to my window.
You still have the whole core body left after you burned off everything else. You take that and dump it someplace else. I've seen that in this country numerous times. I've seen it internationally.
Anyways, I hope they're put before they can make a 3, and definitely before they can make a 4. Oh, yeah. So, not put, out is the typo, right?
What is possible
human. That means we don't know what it is. All right?
Right.
The best anthropologists in the world don't know what these bones are. Even through testing, what's called mitochondrial DNA testing, whether they're human or not, could not, even by the FBI, be determined. So the bones in the quarry are really not evidence in this case. And so Mr. Strangs made a big deal out of showing you maps and a little flag and things like that about possible bones. Again, speculation, conjecture isn't part of this case. Facts are going to be what decides this case.
You know that in the defense, you've got to establish that she was killed elsewhere. And here are a pile of human bones in the gravel pit where the suspected pelvis is. And those bones have been documented by the state expert as being human, not possibly human, but human, and then some of them have cut marks on them. So between the defense attorney and their expert, that's what you really call dropping the ball. So the jury's sitting there having the state just minimize the pelvic bone. I mean, Pratt said that he would spend no more than 20 seconds on it, but he would have had to spend a lot more time on numerous human bones over there, with some of which had cut marks on them. That might have given him pause past 20 seconds. But certainly with the jury, that would have been a huge part of the argument that was made, that she wasn't killed on the Avery property. She left the Avery property. She was killed, dismembered, and burned over in the gravel pit.
I mean, look at that when you see the dots on there.
Cell phone activity puts her all
you have to drive a long way to basically just go in a circle and go behind where you just were. Just look at how close that is right there.
So the goal here is to get to the truth of what happened to Teresa Halbach. We're not trying to just stir up trouble. We're trying to find out what actually happened to her. And what the state said happened to her isn't remotely close to happen to her.
8 facts.
Significant evidence has been discovered over the past 24 hours at the Avery Salvage Yard.
I found out from the media that there was possibly some remains.
Oh, I forgot about this.
Property. There was a press conference that was on television. I believe it was.
This was new. I didn't know this until seeing this, and I feel horrible for this lady, the coroner.
Evidence that that has been collected and that they are analyzing is that of human in nature.
Prior to that, I had no knowledge or reports given to me by police or detectives. I did keep some notes when things started with hearing things in the media, phone calls. So I did keep notes, dates, times. I called Officer Wiegert, Detective Wiegert, that evening of the 9th. And at that point, he told me they just overlooked calling me. And I told him I wanted to come out to the scene. They told me the scene was closed.
It was his right hand, Lily, I believe.
And I said, okay, that's fine, but why didn't you give us some kind of report, some kind of a heads up as to what was going on? And then he commented to me at that time very rudely, well, I don't have to call or tell you about bones. And I said, oh, yes, you do. It's the law, it's the statute 979. When there is a deceased body or remains, that a coroner or medical examiner are always notified. They handle the medical forensic side of the body. The next day in the morning, I was going to go out to the scene and I was called to a meeting by Sheriff Peterson. I thought, oh good, I'm finally getting a meeting. I'm finally going to get a update on what's going on and when I will be able to come out to the scene. But when I got there, at that time, I was told I will not be going out to the case. I will not be going out to the scene. And if I do, I will be arrested. And actually, in the state of Wisconsin, the coroner is the top law enforcement official when there is a body or remains. And the coroner is the one who can arrest the sheriff. So he's threatening to arrest me. I could tell him that today. When he told me that, I left. I walked out. And then shortly after that, got a call from the county exec. You need to stay out of this conflict of interest because of the Avery case and the $36 million lawsuit. And then it was a few minutes later, I got a call from the county attorney. Deb, you need to stay out of this case because of the conflict of interest.
Well, why was everybody else involved in there? Why was Lincoln Colborn?
I said, what are other officers doing out there from Manitowoc County when they should not be out there? I said, I've never been involved in a previous.
Yeah, Jeff, we
case.
post
My
Kathleen's
office
tweets.
suffered from the sheriff's department, and it just ended by that. I never did get out to the
Jody,
scene.
that's a whole
information.
different thing on why
I was
she
never
wasn't
allowed to
allowed
do my
there
job.
because of a prior case that's possible. Police
I
killed
was supposed
a
to be an
boy.
advocate for Teresa. That was my goal. And when you can't do that, you just have this bad feeling that you failed. You failed that person. To my knowledge, there was no coroner there. There was no forensic anthropologist or medical examiner.
The defense calls it was Deborah Tackett.
When I walked into the courtroom and took the stand, Attorney Kratz, he just looked at me, just staring me down.
Oh yeah, look at those
That
little
told me the whole
beady
story.
eyes.
Did you, in November of 2005, come to learn of some suspected human bones found on or near the Avery property in Manitowoc County?
Yes, I did.
How did you learn about that?
From television.
What did you do after you saw on television something about the discovery of possible human remains?
Our Twitter is Bravery
Well, I had
SAP.
phone calls, and particularly from my deputies as to what the plan of action would be.
Outside the presence of the jury. All right, at this time, the court will excuse the jurors for a few minutes. What is the relevancy of this? The Manitowoc County Corporation Council wanted to remove all Manitowoc County officials from this investigation.
But they didn't.
To come in now.
The coroner had nothing to do with Stephen's original case.
Manitowoc County employee.
But the people involved in the $36 million were still on there.
Neither Ms. Tackett nor the office of coroner, nor anyone in the coroner's
Yeah, I
office
know, Chelsea.
had any part involved
First thing that I had thought
in
when I saw it the first time was, can I order her like some flowers or something? Or, you know, I don't know. Because this is who you want as your county's coroner, who actually cares.
Performing its lawful duties in connection with the discovery of human remains.
I don't see how anything the coroner would have done would have somehow contributed to a less biased investigation in this matter. The court is not going to allow it.
I wasn't up there
Bullshit.
long on the stand at all. I love my job. So I had to end it.
If anybody's on here or watches this in the future that's local and you know that woman, Please let her know that she has people's overwhelming support. And thank her for what she did. Danielle, we're on episode 10. Almost done with it, I think.
This morning, the court ruling that could have led to freedom for Brendan Dassey. Instead, a federal appeals court narrowly decided to uphold his conviction, keeping him in prison. Brendan Dassey won 2 court battles before this new ruling, which could keep him in prison for the rest of his life. That federal appeals court finding he was not intimidated or coerced.
That's exactly what the judge did, Kristen. Tie the hands again.
It's clear he's been very resistant up to that point. Very reluctant. He's telling a contradictory story that doesn't make any sense. And they're calling him on it. It comes out very slowly and painfully, but he volunteers it.
He signed and initialed the Miranda waiver and his mother consented. He doesn't know what a Miranda warning is, or Miranda rights.
The investigators made my skin crawl watching this video, this lulling behavior that they conveyed, which was so dishonest, so dishonest.
They have nothing on Brendan except for his confession. And anybody with a brain in their head can see that Brendan did not know that he was confessing to a murder.
It is not an average person.
He thought he was just pleasing these adult
with a very, very
figures.
low IQ who is extremely suggestible.
It leaves me speechless. I don't understand how people could think that Brendan could do these things, that Brendan could rape a girl. Jody, that's a decoration. I just go the wrong way.
It's been overturned 2 times already. If you overturn it one time, and then the other two judges overturned it.
Welcome back, Cindy.
Else, you would have been out.
Yeah, that's a decoration.
This case,
It's a Halloween decoration, but I keep it year round because
you ain't walking
it looks on the outside like somebody from in here looking out the window.
Well, because they don't want to be wrong. And it's a high-profile case. It's going to be more harder for the state to let it go because they are wrong.
I still believe that it's going to happen because they can't stop the development of science. They can't stop the information that we have, that it will fall apart on that. That should make Brendan's case fall apart too.
Oh yeah, well, it's gonna collapse. That's when you're innocent. It's gonna break down sooner or later.
Yeah,
Not
that's what I
sooner.
think too.
You know,
It's always later.
No, you can't. I was just reading a book about post convictions, and they said the biggest problem was that people eventually just stop. You know, they just stop filing stuff.
Yeah. Well, they know me by now. I don't stop.
Yeah, no, I think I think they might have gotten that. You know.
Since we learned that we lost before the en banc Seventh Circuit, we have begun taking steps to get Brendan's case before the U.S. Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court gets thousands of requests to take cases each year, and out of those thousands, they take about 80 cases.
This case is never
Shannon, why
about
is the
odds,
family
it's about
making up now that
overcoming
Stephen is
odds.
going to be released?
So to increase the chances that the court will take the case, we decided we would seek.
I don't
out the
know
best
that they're
lawyers
making that up. I think they just
to
don't
help present the case to the
understand.
Supreme Court.
Chelsea, have you talked to Stephen recently? No, I haven't talked to him in a while, and I don't expect to.
He's argued 80 cases before that court. He knows what
I know that
A day does not go by when I
his
don't hear
family,
Jan Reno's
who have
voice in my
been
head saying,
stealing money
"You're
from
gonna be
supporters,
criticized no matter what, so why don't we just do the
are
right thing?"
running to
He is the
Stephen
person
and
who
saying I'm a
had
big
to know
meanie
that
because I called him out on stealing money.
There
So
are
I'm going to
not
guess
that
I'm not
many
going to hear
lawyers
from
who appear
Stephen
with any
for a while.
Before the Supreme Court, except Waxman is one. The Supreme Court views its most important function as ensuring uniform and harmonious application of federal law throughout the United States. If you look at cases involving juveniles or persons with limitations and how the voluntariness of their confession is being evaluated,
Yes, Kristen, she does. She
you
keeps
can
Brendan
see
in
an
mind.
astonishing
But
degree
she's
of
also going to know, since she did the Ryan Ferguson case, that getting Stephen out doesn't mean Brendan gets out. It all depends on how she gets
Back in
Stephen out.
1948,
If she's able to prove who really did it,
must analyze confessions
beyond a
from
shadow of a
juveniles
doubt,
with an amendment
well,
of
that
care,
will help
with
Brendan.
special
But if
care,
she
with
just
the
gets Stephen a
greatest
new
care.
trial and
Since
then
that
the
decision,
jury
there has been
says
silence
not guilty,
for the most
that
part
doesn't
from the
mean
court,
that
and it's
Brendan
left,
gets to walk because Brendan confessed.
a lot of confusion in the state courts. It's not confusion because the law is unclear. It's confusion because the courts are either ignoring or misapplying what is clear Supreme Court precedent.
It's been 40 years since the United States Supreme Court even looked at the question of juvenile voluntariness. Since 1979, so much has happened. There's been an explosion of knowledge about the problem of false confessions, a realization from social science and psychologists and lawyers who have proven their clients innocent through DNA that children are more likely to falsely confess to crimes they didn't commit, and that the courts are not doing enough to protect kids when that happens.
It's really very,
Central
very
Park
important
5.
that the court take this case and model for state and federal courts how one evaluates a confession by a juvenile, and a juvenile with rather significant intellectual and social deficits. I think the entire country has an interest in having the Supreme Court hear this case. I mean, every one of us wants a system of criminal justice that ferrets out
the perpetrators of crime and punishes them appropriately, but that also respects the individual liberties on which our country was founded.
We need only 4 of the 9 justices to agree to take the case.
Uh-oh, the CD.
After a bunch of back and forth, all of a sudden on April 17th of 2018, Mr. Fallon has mailed to my office in an original evidence package with evidence tape on it, the CD. So he disclosed it to me as if it were an original disclosure.
So they kept this CD all this time.
Brady requires a timely disclosure. So if you look at the fact that the Veely report, the forensic analysis of the computer, was completed on May 10th of 2006, the Fassbender report was not turned over, even mentioning the CD, until December of 2006. And the Fassbender report says the disc received from Detective Veely, as well as the hard copy pages of instant message conversations, were maintained in Fassbender's possession. So 2,400 pages of evidence is kept by Fassbender, not given to the defense. It was never, ever given to the trial team, the appellate team. It was not disclosed until it was given to me. The Veely CD was withheld because it would have destroyed the credibility of the state's star witness.
Bobby Dassey is an eyewitness without any bias.
Without any bias. He hated Stephen.
To be given a lot of credit, because sometime between 2:30 and 2:45, he sees Teresa Halbach taking photographs. Mr. Dassey's looking out this window, a clear view, sees the pictures being taken of the SUV, a clear pathway, and then actually walks towards the areas. That's the last Miss Halbach is seen. That's the last she's seen alive. Okay? So that's the timeline, that's the pathway, if you will, towards what happens to Miss Halbach.
Mr. Kratz, in the opening and the closing, talked about how credible Bobby Dassey was. There'd be no reason for him to lie, that the jury should believe Bobby Dassey because he's just this independent witness that's got no motive to lie. And so it was imperative that that CD be withheld, because that CD showed the kind of demented, twisted, sadistic mind of somebody capable of committing a murder. So from their opening statement, the defense would have told the jury that they were going to hear from a state witness that most likely was the person who had killed Teresa Halbach, and they would have talked about his opportunity, motive, and that he was going to be lying to them. And then when he got on the stand, they would have confronted him, and the jury would have seen these images. I mean, do we really think a jury would have listened to Bobby Dassey describe anything if they had seen what was on the computer?
Right.
And what he
They
was
know
doing?
they're hiding something. That's why they don't give her everything.
Torturing young women, many of whom look like Teresa Halbach. He's got pictures of women blindfolded, gagged, tied up, dismembered. And so he would have been attacked with all of that. He would have been totally discredited in his testimony that Teresa never left the property. I guarantee you, Stephen Avery would never have been convicted if that evidence had come in that's on the CD. He would not have been convicted.
Well, that's not true. he would have gotten a hung jury. There's no way he would have gotten a not guilty verdict because of the two people from Manitowoc Sheriff's Department on his jury.
Brady violations is we will be able to show that this was deceptively withheld by the state. Kratz creates an index of discovery, which doesn't match anyone else's index of what's been turned over. But right at the end of it, he puts an entry that says Brendan Dassey's computer, 7 CDs. Well, a bunch of things wrong with that. It's not Brendan Dassey's computer, and there were never 7 CDs. There were 7 DVDs and a CD, and the CD is what has the analysis on it. The CD is what you can just pop in a computer and pull up and look at, and you don't have to have the in-case program like the DVDs required. But I believe what he was doing is he was trying to hide the fact that Fassbender still had the CD. It had never been turned over. So he's thinking that Buting and Strang and their paralegals, and you're in this big flurry getting ready for trial, you're going to look at that entry and think, oh, well, we must have that. By the way, it has to do with Brendan's computer. We're not going to get involved in looking at stuff on Brendan's computer. We've got to focus on the rest of the evidence that pertains to Stephen and the case. And so it's just so slippery the way that he did that. So that's the first thing that Kratz does. And then this stipulation proposal was sent by Mr. Kratz on January 25th of 2007. The trial started in the early part of February 2007, so it couldn't be any closer to the trial date. So stipulations are pretrial agreements between each side about evidence that you both agree on, and so you don't need to bring witnesses in to testify. It's a way to streamline the trial. So in paragraph R, Mr. Kratz says, computer analysis of Steve, Teresa,
they all should be in prison. I don't get how they.
Of course,
this is all clear as day what they did here.
Healy of the Grand Chute Police Department analyzed the hard drives of these 3 and found.
And this again goes to prove Strang and Buting ineffective assistance of counsel. Why are you going to believe that Sweaty Sweat is honest with you on anything?
Nothing much of evidentiary value. Yeah, for the state, there's nothing much, but there's something huge for the defense that he's kept from them. And of course, where the deception is in labeling it as Brendan's computer. It's not Brendan's computer. Brendan's the person using it, less than anyone in the family. But Kratz knew, it's very clever. He knew if he told them, oh, Brendan's computer, we did a forensic analysis, and you guys are really lucky, there's nothing on there of evidentiary value. You're not going to say, wait a minute, we want to dive deeper into this and really start looking at what's been disclosed. So it was just they were completely duped. This isn't just
Kratz absolutely did it on purpose.
This is about depriving someone of their life, because being locked up, life without parole, in a little cage for the rest of your life is just about as bad as it gets. And when you find out that you're there because the other side tricked and lied to your attorneys, it doesn't get much worse than that. It's hardly the prosecutor seeking justice.
Mm-hmm. How does anybody rule against that? Well, then you must be part of it in hiding.
You can't tell one lie without it getting uncovered. And their one lie snowballed into a whole bunch of other stuff. And I just don't think the county knows how to get out from under that. Good things are coming. The future is going to hold good things for Steve and Brendan. They're going to get out, they're going to live happy, healthy lives, and put this all behind them. That's what they need.
The whole family needs that.
The implications of this case has a much wider reach than just Wisconsin, and certainly wider than Manitowoc. So, to me, it's about the bigger issue of how did this happen? And
Oh, these rallies are so stupid.
To all change and restore all prosecutors accountable for their actions, this will continue to happen. To not only Stephen, but to more children.
that's the point.
Yes, it would be.
He's going to be home soon.
Yes, he is going to be.
Yeah, next week the Supreme Court is
Oh
going to
my
review,
God, I
whether or not they're
fucking
gonna take
hate
Brendan
her.
Dassey's case. And man,
This is who called the Attorney
and I
General
really
on me,
took
saying
the
I
time and
stole
looked through the
money
evidence
from
and-
Stephen Drizzen.
and see the truth.
Free Stephen! I want my son home and I want my brother home. My family did not do anything. Meaning Scott, my son Bobby, Brendan, Stephen. I know they didn't do nothing. They're all innocent. My whole family's innocent. So I think they ought to let them out. And let us go on with our lives.
Let's see, look at that. What is there? 30 people there? It's a complete joke. Oh, stupid people.
Today, you're right, we had sort of a couple more non-decisions. The court decided not to take up two disputes that there had been some real thinking that the court might wade into.
The Supreme Court said it's not going to take the case of a young man. He was convicted in a brutal murder, and the only evidence against him was
A brutal
his own
murder.
confession.
Again, nobody knows what happened to Teresa.
Today's Supreme Court decision not to hear Dassey's appeal means that lower court ruling will stand, as does his sentence of life in
Well, that's
prison.
my local news.
Justices did not say why they won't take the case. It was Dassey's last option for appeal.
It's not his last option. Because again, our system is stupid. You can just go right back down again and start again. It's so dumb.
With the court's decision.
Yeah, it is a brutal blow hearing that again, Kristen.
Dear people in the world, thank you for listening to me. It means a lot to know there are many people who believe in me. I am innocent of the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach. My confession is false. It always has been. I thought I finally had a chance at life.
I wonder who wrote this for him.
To go home. I still hope that someday the people in charge would realize they made a mistake. Until then, I am staying strong for myself, my mom, and my friends. Thank you for helping me stay strong. Sincerely, Brendan Daffy.
Stephen's been in prison for 31 years.
You know, the story of Stephen Avery's life, whether I win in court or just making known what happened to him if he doesn't survive, is something that I'm completely committed to doing, because it is such a tragic story. So it's a difficult thing to know that we're so far down the road on it and that everything's mobilized against us, but it can be done. It still can be done because there's so much evidence. It's not just the jury that didn't hear the evidence in this case, it's the judges. They have yet to be given the true story of what happened to Teresa Halbach. They're just responding to what they have. They can't go out and investigate. They can't hire scientists. And so you can't fault them at this point. I still believe in the fundamental fairness of the courts if you give them the evidence. No one's done that yet. No one has done that. And that's why we're taking it up on appeal. We're trying to give them this evidence. And if they say, no, it isn't enough, or it isn't, it's partial, then I'll go back and I'll get more. But I mean, it is what it is. He's been wrongfully convicted twice, and my job is to prove that.
The supporters don't know what to do because it's taken so long. When you're fighting for your innocence and you need the truth out, it takes time. You gotta give the lawyer time so she can do it a good job, so we can just throw it out, you know. It's just 1, 2, 3, you're locked up, and then it takes forever to get out. You know, and that's the way it is. Hurry up, get in, and take your time the way out. But then when you got the proof there, that's 1, 2, 3, you're out. Like the first time. They ran the DNA and boom, I was out. So now we gotta do the same thing on this.
So, I did that the last time. I need to mute it. There you have it. We are done. Bunch of bullshit. All right, so leave you with these reminders of tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on our Stephen Avery Project public page is when we are scheduled to have a live discussion with John Farrick, who wrote the Wrecking Crew book. So it'll be done just like we do our lives here with me, where you guys can submit your questions. But just know, since it'll be done on Stephen Avery Project, it goes really fast because there's a lot of other people on there. So it'll scroll up so fast and it's hard to keep up. So questions will get lost. So, and he's only going to talk about things pertaining to his book. Don't ask him about anything else. And he's only on for an hour. So 8 to 9 p.m. And it's currently 9:30 p.m. here. So that's tomorrow. And then next week is when the brief will come out, and we'll go live as soon as we have the brief and read it. I'll probably do that on Stephen Avery Project too, but undecided. So, all right. I'm reading the final things. Okay, so I am going to end now, and I will talk to everybody soon. Thank you for being here.